Hi everyone, this is Charlotte Reeves from Learn Pet Photography. I was just editing this image today of Dice the Border Collie, and he has a very spitty tongue, and I thought I should share with you some techniques that I use to clean up tongues, because I don't like to show clients final images with a really slobbery tongue. I feel it just looks a bit messy. So I'm just going to zoom in here. I'm in Photoshop. So the main tools that I use are the patch tool and content aware. So often I'll select an area with the patch tool, and instead of actually clicking and dragging that to somewhere else and resampling it from there, which works really well sometimes too, we'll just use content aware. So I'll use the patch tool as a way of selecting an area, and then I will press delete. It comes up with the fill dialog box, and I just choose content aware here and go OK. And often a content aware fill does a better job than actually using the patch tool as the patch tool is meant to be used. So I'm just going to go through and tidy up some of these other areas of the tongue. So just doing small sections at a time. So just selecting with the patch tool and then doing a content aware fill. Okay, so that's that looking a lot better. Now we've got this area over here on the left side of the dog's tongue, and it's quite a large area of spitty, slobbery, reflective yuckiness. So if I did try and use the patch tool here, we'll just see how that goes. We'll try content aware fill first. It's not too bad, but we've got a bit of weird stuff going on up here. It sort of grabbed a bit of the edge of the dog's mouth or tooth or something there. So that didn't work out so well. I'm going to try then just patching it from somewhere else. It's not too bad, but I've got a bit of a line here, and it doesn't look good in this area. I'm going to use a different technique, and it's basically using other parts of the image to replicate or to patch over areas that are just a little bit beyond the content aware and patching and clone stamp tool and all that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the lasso tool, or you can use patch, either way, but lasso tool is probably the best way to go. I'm going to broadly select the other side of the tongue. So just make a very broad selection there. I'm going to change to the move tool, and I'm going to go copy. So Command C to copy. Doesn't look like it's done anything, but it has. And then I'm going to paste. So Command V to paste. Again, it doesn't look like it's done anything, but if you have a look over in the layers palette here, you'll notice we have a new layer with just that little selection that we copied. So I'm going to drag that using the move tool, drag that over to this side. Now, the thing with this tongue is that it's darker towards the top and in the middle. So why I've used this section here is so I can flip it and put it on the other side, and the areas of tone are going to match up nicely. So to flip this, I need to flip it horizontally. So I'll make sure I've got that layer selected, and then go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and you'll see almost immediately that's kind of the effect I was going for. Maybe not quite that far. We only need this little tiny corner of the tongue here. So I'm going to change the opacity of that layer so I can reposition it and we can kind of see where it needs to be. Now, I want to kind of line up that dark bit in the middle. And I'm also going to just transform this layer a little bit. So I'm going to press Command T on the keyboard and then just rotate this a little bit so that this line measures up. Now you do need to sort of move it around and make sure you're getting the right area kind of lining up. You can adjust it later. All right, press return. I'm going to take that back to 100% opacity, and then I'm going to add a layer mask. So the best way to add a layer mask, quickest way, is in the layers palette here, and it's just this little, select the layer first, Charlotte. Okay, so it's just this little icon down the bottom here. Now, if you press Option while clicking that icon, it'll add a layer mask, and it'll actually mask it all out to start with. So it'll be a black mask. So I'm going to use a white brush to then paint in this area of tongue here. All right, So that's not looking too bad. What I'm going to do though, I think I can probably shift that bit of tongue so the tones match up even better. So I'm going to go up to the layer here and just click this little link icon between the mask and the layer, just to unlink the mask from the layer so I can move them independently. So I'm going to click the layer itself, not the mask, and I'm just going to use the keys on my keyboard to move that layer around until the tones match up a little bit better. So I've kind of moved it up and to the right a little bit. I think that's actually pretty close to where I want it. Okay, so if I turn that off and on again, you'll see the difference there. Now what I'm going to do also is just to go in and tidy this up a little bit. I'm going to change the brush. I've selected the brush tool by pressing B on the keyboard. And I'm going to change the color of the brush to black so I can remask in some areas around the edges. So I just press X on the keyboard to swap the foreground and background colors. And I'm just going to go in, make sure I've got the edge of that tongue. Now it is a little bit slobbery, but I think that sort of helps define that edge a little bit better. Okay, and I'll just turn that layer off and on, off and on. I'll just press X again and then remask this back in again. Sometimes this is a bit of a process that you've got to fiddle around with until you get it right. Okay, I think that's pretty good. I'm just going to darken that overall as well. So I'm just going to select that layer and use levels. So I can either use a levels adjustment layer, or I can just go to image adjustments levels. And I'm just going to move that middle slider towards the right a little bit, just to match those tones a bit better, because the other side of the tongue is actually a little bit lighter. So there we go. Okay, now I'm going to flatten that. So I have a keyboard shortcut set up for flattening. That's Shift Command F. You can go into your custom keyboard shortcuts if you want to set something up like that. And finally, I'm just going to do a little bit of final tidying up just to sort of make sure that new bit of tongue is blended in nicely. And I'm going to zoom out and zoom in and have another look to make sure it's all good. Yeah, I think that's good. So you probably don't want to use that technique unless you absolutely have to, because it does take a little bit longer, but still it was only, if I hadn't been explaining it, it only would have been a minute or so to do that, and it can be a really good solution sometimes. So let's have a look and see what the spitty tongue looked like before and now after. Lots better. That's it. I hope that was helpful for you. If you have any questions, just let me know, and I'll see you next time.